It Walks Among Us. It's the title of my first feature film that I will drop on Halloween online, by the way. And it's an interesting one because it was meant to be fiction. And in true dystopic fashion, I thought I was making a film that would show what could be happening pretty soon. But even before it was finished, the world caught up to it. I was thinking I was making my nightmare into a movie, and then in 2020, the nightmare became way more real. And after, it got even more real than that. So, how did I predict back in 2018 when we shot the movie an increase in global warming consequences and the rise of right wing ideologies, totalitarianism, populism, social unrest, wars, and of course, there was the global pandemic that would crack the world open. And what makes that movie truly horrific? Well, pull up a chair, because I'm about to tell you. It's one of the great things when making your first feature film totally indie. It's that you're free to do whatever you want. And of course, there's the risk of having a hard time selling the movie if it's not marketable easily. But in my experience, it was really worth it. Even though now, 3 years after completing the movie, I need to be taking its distribution into my own sole hands. It's still a movie that I, as a horror fan, can stand by. And it's even a movie that, as a movie fan, I can stand by. Just that's not quite the same thing. And so, yeah, It Walks Among Us. I wrote that in 2018, and it was about as modern society is collapsing and people get pushed to the point of becoming violent, and the world is less and less obeying laws and social decency. A man gets a call from his father saying that he had a car accident and he's at the hospital and he needs to be picked up there to be taken in his home where they hope they could be safe because people are getting more and more violent and crazy and murderous and dangerous. And so yeah, that's the pitch of the movie. And also there's people in it that discuss if the pandemic they seem to be facing is either of biological origins or psychological origins or even metaphysical origins. And yeah, I wrote that in 2018 and we shot that in 2018 and 2019. And I was about to be finished with post-production, with putting the finishing touches to the editing, when COVID hit. Of course, there was not only the problem of, oh, how are we going to distribute that, because who will want to see a movie about this pandemic, about a pandemic in this pandemic times, and we didn't know how long it would last also. But also there was the thing, so do I wait for it to be a good time to release it, knowing that this time may never come, or, it might take a very long time? Or do I find a way to make it pandemic proof? Do I retool my movie so that there's no 15 first minutes spent in making the viewer accept the idea of a global pandemic? because the whole thing was I wanted that to be really realistic. So I was working on that in the first edit. And or do I find some COVID proof deeper meaning in that? And I did the letter. I re-edited everything. And now, looking back on it, the movie is scary in many ways, not because it predicted that a global pandemic would affect the minds of the people, the minds of the whole society, and precipitate economic collapse in many areas. But as I was writing it, a lot of things, way more of that movie was coming from my own darkness, my own shadows, things I didn't really want to confront and was very much impacted by. And all that led me to, when I was re-editing it, it all led me to make a movie about the shadows, about the depths in ourselves and in our world and in the consequences of our actions, that all these things that we don't really want to plunge into. It was going to have to be a movie about the shadow you think you see in the corner of your eye, but are not sure of having seen when you turn towards that, and that shadow was scary. That's why it's a post-truth horror feature. It's about a world where no scientific reality, no physical hard truth, no facts matter more than the ideas, conscious or not conscious, that haunt our minds and hearts, because that makes us create a whole world around us. The darkness inside spreads all around. The film is about that, and to me, that is absolutely terrifying, especially when it's about a movie that was written 7 years prior to the moment right now where I'm talking to you, and it shows things that became even truer than they were at the time. It's all about this feeling of we are never quite sure of what we see and hear and understand as being the truth. And in a world where presidents of the most powerful countries in the world are really throwing out bullshit all day long without really being that impacted from it, they're just where people get involved in politics at high levels and throw out crap that just is going to make people talk, that are going to get them to be even more viral than they were. Viral, that's the word. That world makes very little sense in many ways, and we're also in a world where AI can create, just by being fed a few words, videos that look more realistic day after day, and older generations are already falling into the trap of it. The whole pandemic thing, it was easy for me to say that it was about to happen as a risk. The AI, I didn't have any idea when I wrote It Walks Among Us that we would be that close to having Skynet in our lives a few years later. But yeah, that movie represents the feeling that you might get when you scroll down your feed and you ask yourself, you take a step back mentally and you ask yourself, what are you doing? And do you really know what's real anymore? Are you trapped in your echo chamber? Is this image true or fabricated? And the movie is very much about that, because when I re-edited it, I realized that I would what I would be doing that would make a lot of sense and that would make it post-truth horror would be to push every tangible explanation in the corner of the movie to make it in the corners in the to make you feel that you understand just enough that you want to keep going, but on first viewing you just feel that everything is falling apart around the characters, and in the second half of the movie inside the characters too, in a different way. And so that's what the main characters of the movie, all the characters of the movie, live through. Collapsed shared meaning. A collapse of shared meaning, I could even say. And I don't think no one can survive long in a world like that unless you choose your truth very carefully. And so, yeah, in that movie, lots of you see around the characters everything that could feel solid, like institutions, like the police, governments, hospitals, and also relationships, like the big sister who always took care of the little sister. It's all crumbling in front of your eyes, scene after scene after scene after scene. And the individuals and the society they build together are getting preyed upon by everybody's inner darkness that now has got free range. You know, it can do whatever it feels inclined to do. And yeah, it was about making every character's inner monster come out in some ways, and some fight, some don't fight, and we see that horror come out. And you know, there's lots of references to different types of B movies in It Walks Among Us, like the horror that I consumed since I started to get interested in filmmaking when I was 10 years old. Watched a lot of different types of scary flicks, from pure horror 80s 90s, like, you know, the Freddy Krueger flicks, Carpenter movies, everything, even to just thrillers, movies that are more psychological in their scares. I never looked down on these movies, but after some years, every movie that felt like it was sticking to big tropes, even though these tropes I like, it didn't feel dangerous to me. It didn't feel like true horror. It didn't feel like I was taking a peek behind a curtain I shouldn't have looked behind. Taking a peek behind a curtain at some hidden aspects of myself or humanity. So I wanted to make a film that was deep horror, like strange enough that it gets scary because you don't know exactly what that is, even though you can identify many tropes that are evoked and tweaked in it. And the fact that I had to re-edit it to get deeper into the belly of this already dark story, to make even more darkness come out, to make it be stronger than its premise, made it even scarier. I've made since then some feature films that I'm gonna release too, with the same protocol as this one, that are way more identifiable in their connection to horror genres, but I'm not sure they're more unsettling and scarier than this one. And yeah, I wanted to make a film that felt like a dark dream, not a full-blown nightmare, but a bad dream. That thing that lingers like a bad fever and haunts you and you want to get rid of and you can't, and yet there is something deeply attractive, almost sensual, organic in it. And to me, this is It Walks Among Us. that's how this one feels like. And yeah, because this one is about the collapse of a society, the collapse of relationships, the collapse of sanity, the collapse of certainty. And that's also why it feels like a Western movie, not only because I took some visual cues and atmospheric cues, mood cues from that genre, but also there's a whole new land to discover in a world where the rules are not broken, but not only they're broken, they feel like they have nothing to, they've got nothing on us, on our new world. They cannot have people abide to them anymore. And you know, in the old rules, there were bad ones and good ones, or at least ones that make us able to exist together. And the movie is very very Jungian, and it was not the plan at first. Like, it's really about the shadows that come from our depths and spill over reality. It was always in the script, but not to that level. And yeah, I could say that to me that's a very believable way to show how civilizations die. Not only with violence, it comes maybe later, or I don't know, chicken and egg thing, but with confusion and loss of meaning. So it walks among us, and it became a requiem for meaning, in a way, a horror flick about the slow death of the ability to live together or to understand anything. But so yeah, this is a dark one. However, I have the deep belief that a horror movie, or any movie that's hard to watch, willingly hard to watch, it needs to give you something in the end that was worth the emotional turmoil it put you through. And that thing, I found it for It Walks Among Us by chance. First version of the script, it was very open-ended. I alluded to more darkness to come with just a little bit of hope. But when we were about to shoot the very last scenes, it was the last on the schedule when we did some additional photography in 2019. And it was also what would be the very last scene of the movie. And so the shoot for that was scheduled. But 2 days prior shooting that, I learned that my estranged father had just died very suddenly. And my dad was the one who really made me love movies. And I was about to finish the shoot of my very first feature. And even though our story, my dad and I, was complicated and I was estranged from him, well, I could say that I pushed him back very far away from me, but it was proportional to how much I had needed him and loved him. So it was very bittersweet, and the ending was supposed to be one thing, and I was walking to the station to take the train and to get to where we were about to shoot that scene. And on my way there, I was pushing against what I had written. Everything pointed to, I cannot let the dark win. Maybe because life was already sad and dark enough. You know, probably that a part of me still had hopes when it came to my relationship with my father. And maybe showing my film to him would have fixed things. But I was very emotional, obviously, and suddenly it hit me that I was forgetting my own core value of making a movie that's tough, worth the emotional turmoil for the viewer. And it pushed me in the train. I rewrote the scene. Actually, it was not even written. I was just, my co-producer at the time, I was just able to tell him, this is what we're going to do. There's going to be this. This character is going to say that, and this character is going to do that in response. And I remember when I was explaining that to him, that his eyes lit up. And that's when I felt, okay, there's something in that idea. And I gotta say, I'm deeply satisfied with the fact that we did that in the end, because the ending is the best ending, is the most earned ending for a movie that was about everything It Walks Among Us is about, made by someone who has that deep belief that the pain and the horror need to be worthwhile in a story and in life. And this is our duty as responsible individuals and as filmmakers to make the horror worthwhile. And I think that's what we did. And that's also why the movie is dedicated to my father, where it says before the end credits, "To my father who was too afraid of his own shadows, to the innocent child he once was." So yeah, It Walks Among Us. It's a dark, relentless, grim descent into what terrified me at the time, for the world, for myself, for the beings I love, for this world I love so many things in. And but to me, a horror story cannot be just darkness. It has to aim at being night vision. And that's why when I make these kind of films, I make them to... I've lived in the dark long enough so that if I accept that to have been a big part of my life, I can see a bit through it, and I can share that and hope that someone somewhere will see a bit better through the dark night of their soul that at some point comes from us all. So yeah, this is my post-truth horror feature film, It Walks Among Us. And if any of this resonates with you, it will drop this Halloween. You'll find out where and when exactly here on this channel, on my socials. And I hope you watch it, and that if you stumble upon it, that you'll watch it, and that you'll come with me through the dark so that we can find a little bit of light there.